all the best parts. I leaned in and told him I wanted the white lingerie that Laura Palmer is wearing in that scene where she leaves her parents' house and she gets on that boy's motorcycle and they ride at night to the edge of the woods and then she jumps off and she runs. That's the scene where you can see it all the best. When they find her body, the lace is all covered in dirt and torn, and the camera just stays on her eyes and her mouth. There's only one other bit in the movie that I liked as much. When Laura and Donna go with two guys to the secret back room in this place, and there's a band playing loud, and one of the girls on stage is naked, and Laura and Donna are dancing, and then Donna gets drugged, and then a guy goes down on Laura under the table, and then Donna's having sex, and Laura yells at her for wearing her clothes. And acting like her, and Mike and I yelled at each other in the parking lot those same lines, "Don't wear my stuff!" And we made plans to go to Victoria's Secret together when we could. Dear Diary, most of all, I need permission. When Cole guided me up the stairs by holding my back and my legs just spread, that was one kind. And before, when his hand played on the edge of his belt and the buttons over his cock, that was another. And just now, on the Lower East Side, this kind. His arm again around my hip, side by side, talking like the lovers I don't know we are yet, as he asks me, how long was I a prostitute? And how many men have I had sex with for money? It's so fewer men than I thought, than he thought. I just held up two hands with some fingers bent back into my palms, and then I took his hand. But I remember his hand better on my neck, sending me off to the F train, with his other hooked under my skirt. Dear Diary, I got my lingerie on Friday. It's off-white silk. My mom left us at the mall, and then I dragged Mike into Victoria's Secret. I half was flirting with him out of boredom, plus he flirts so much, I figured nobody would really care. And anyway, I felt bad in the dressing room. So I said through the door to him, "You can see it yourself, that'll make you feel better, just kidding." And Mike said, "Just open the door a crack," and I said, "It's awful." And actually, he says, "It's not that bad." Dear Diary, while I was writing just now, with that song that Laura is dancing to in the bar on, and just stretching around on my bed by myself, my mother opened my door without knocking and said, "Melissa, this room, with these lights, and this music, it looks like a bordello." Dear Diary, Mike is mad at me. He called me last night and he told me that I'm going to be that girl who wakes up somewhere strange and can't find her clothes. I don't know what's wrong with him because I'm a virgin. That was good. Because I'm a virgin and it's not like I do drugs. It's not. That's all right, this is pornographic enough. Dear Diary, after he shoved me against the wall, forced my skirt up and held my hip and smacked me hard and hard again on the ass, and I wailed the first sounds I have made in his room tonight, Cole stood back and really looked at me. We were a few floors up, with curtains that wouldn't cover anything left open. He paced back slowly until he got to the couch, and Cole seated himself and told me to masturbate. And I got so lost in my own hands, in the sounds of the street, and then floating, falling around me, I heard Laura's song. And he let me take my time, until my legs almost collapsed and I didn't feel him right away, coming back around to face me, reaching down to my cunt and smearing my wet over my cheeks and lips and sliding his thumb hard between my teeth, running his cock along my cheek. He stopped, and he waited for me to notice it, which humiliated me a little. And I sat back on my heels and I opened my legs to hold me up and remind me why I came here in the first place. It would be dangerous if I didn't want this so much. Dear Diary, I'm telling this part now to Mike, after we've walked half the city together and bought porno mags at the Chelsea flea markets for fun. And so that's it, we're out. We made it out of that theater alive, and I'm still in love with that girl. I'm telling Mike about the money I've made, spoiled, taken out and kissed so sweetly by strangers before stepping out of $1,000 gowns into $1,000 beds, but None of that has anything to do with the risks I took to feel like a whore. And that's just being the best good girl I've ever been, all that money. But Mike, that song when Laura's dancing and the looks the men give her, the way their eyes in the woods in the dark just devour her. This girl I just fell for. This girl everyone loved so much, they didn't know she fucked strange men for money. The girl they knew all that about and they loved anyway. The girl they maybe loved more as a dead girl. It's adolescent and it's a fairy tale and it's conflating one myth with another, I know, but it still gets me off, and worse, it explains something. I wouldn't have it any other way than being 14 and loving her, watching her bend and break and die. Dear diary, I can't sleep and I want to tell Cole that I know I have been in this room before. The music is the same, and my skin is as wet, and I have all new bruises. I roll over and I write this, and I apologize, and we talk a little in the dark, and I say, I'm always scared that I'm too much when I say these things. And he says, if there's a story worth telling, Melissa, then tell it. And Melissa, I asked, so you know how that is when you're somewhere you've already been? That it's the room actually occupying you, and you've given over a part of yourself to its walls. And when you fall asleep, you'll have dreams confined to the limits of it. The light, always the light, and then no light, and then a hand or a mouth or teeth or two hands at once. I've had a room in me like that since I started telling this. In that room, I'm always watched, and I'm always adored. And when he comes up my dress and seizes my throat and slams me back against the wall, I am the light I'm standing in. And I am the place outside and the wind moving voices through it that meet my screams. And they don't know what I want, but I do. Thank you. This is a flashback. Do you remember bending over and picking up all your money off the stage? Here you go. Okay, we have one more reader before the break. And then we can move around a little bit, get some alcohol, support spread, buy copies of books, all that good stuff. Okay, plug. Ignacio Rivera is a queer, gender fluid